Booyah. All right. My guest tonight is an actor and a comedian at large. You can catch him starring in the Amazon Prime series Killing It right now. You can check him out on the web in Mares and Caps and Grading Animals. And he is 1/3 of the podcasting triumvirate known as the Low End Gigolos. I got my man, Jon Kaplan, here at Locked on the Block.
Awesome. Thanks for having me, man. This is awesome.
I appreciate it. You're coming to me from your soundproof bunker there. It's pretty cool.
Yeah, dude. I'm in JCap Studios for sure.
I thought you were inside of a giant, like, fucking barbecue grill or something.
Well, you know, it's like, if you see this and you're like, oh, are you guys rehearsing? Like,
Totally, man. So how are you getting through this right now, man? Like, what does it look like where you're at?
well, so I live in like a side apartment that may or may not be illegal in Lindenhurst.
Oh, it's definitely illegal.
Yeah. And so we, you know, like everyone in New York, around the first week of March, we were told to work from home, and I worked from home until April 26th when they furloughed me, which was really fine because from the moment I started working from home, like I kind of was just like doing my own shit, like, and then checking in. Not like they had a ton of work. Like, it was really perfunctory. I don't know what the word is. Like, it was like, we have to do this, and this is the only way we know how. So we're going to pretend like it's the office, but there's no way of monitoring you. And like, I had some editing things, but like, it really trickled down to nothing. And then like having the furlough and like, you know, obviously like I signed up for unemployment and haven't heard anything, and we'll see when I hear from that. Yeah, like, yeah, I mean, it's just like, what the fuck ever. I don't know what's going to happen. Yeah, like, I don't know. And like, truthfully, like, I don't want to go back to work, and I don't want that life again. Like, this has been a tough time for everybody, but like, I've really enjoyed the pandemic, and I never want it to end.
I think a lot of people are having a similar experience. I mean, a lot of people are having a terrible experience hooked up to a fucking machine to breathe, but a lot of people are getting a little bit more than they would have got. A lot of people are, you know, using the time creatively. I mean, maybe a spirit quest is maybe in your future or something, you know, who knows?
For sure. I mean, like, it's like, I don't know, like, I have, you know, living on Long Island, especially like, well, you lived in Long Island for a while,
Oh, yeah,
but
time.
like, you know, a lot of my creative life was in the city. So there was always like this pull of like, well, I can't, like, logistically, I can't be there all the time to like do all the things I want. And especially like 4 years ago, like, I really started to, I don't know, develop like what my whole thing was. I mean, 4 years ago, like, Killing It started, like, a lot of things like started like happen creatively. And so I made a decision that if I can't be in the city every night, you know, just logistically, then I would make sure that like I have a spot where where I'm able to do all the stuff that I wanted to do. And now, like, because everything is shut down, like, I happen to have built like a space for myself that I can do what I want. And like, I've never felt like an artist so much. I actually feel like this has been like better than summer vacation when I was in high school. Like, it's amazing. I mean, despite the money issues, but like, whatever.
I feel like it is like a summer vacation in the sense that when we actually do come back and start seeing people again, it's going to be like that break in time where everyone's changed and they're different. Like, when you didn't see people over the summer online and shit, you know what I mean? Like, they came back and they looked different, or they got laid over the summer and now they're confident or something, you know, or they're lying about it, but it doesn't matter because now they're just better, you know, like. But what made you decide to start grading animals? And for the people at home, he gives them letter grades. He's not grading them with a cheese grater. He's not fucking Hannibal Lecter. He's like doing this thing where he puts up an animal and he assigns it a grade after a careful study.
Well, the grading animals, you know, I had been trying to do a bunch of different things. Like, Marianne and I made our web series, and then like, she lives in Pittsburgh, so like, we can't work on that stuff all the time. And I've always been just basically throwing a lot of things at the wall. Like, I tried doing like vlogs, like Casey Neistat style vlogs. I tried to do like other like little comedic videos, like sketches and stuff. And one of the things that I did just decide one day is, okay, so I don't know, we're the same age. Do you remember those animal cards that they used to like have commercials on TV, and it was like learn about the animals, and like they give you a little green box with all these animal cards in them. They were from the 70s. It's a really thing from the 70s and early 80s, and like by like 85 they stopped existing.
All I
You
can
remember
remember is
this?
that horrible Encyclopedia Britannica commercial with the nerd who had to
Yeah.
report to you on space.
I mean, that's the similar like
Okay.
TV era thing. So anyway, I've had these like cards for my whole life, and I mean, not to mention, I'm a nature. I mean, you can watch if you watch the show. Like, I'm a nature maniac.
Yeah.
So like, I just decided like, I don't know. I want to talk about nature and stuff. Like, it's fun for me, and like, how can I blend like my comedic voice with uh, something I like to talk about? And these cards were like like a catalyst. Like, if you watch the first 10 episodes, like I actually use I just like zoom in on the cards and like zoom in on their names, zoom in on like the habitat, zoom
But
in
now
on
you got
like,
the high production value actually showing the creepy animal or whatever.
yeah, like really went all in. So, I mean, and then also in a way, like, you know, especially for comedians, like especially before the pandemic, and just the fucking stranglehold that people have on like it's just like that's almost self-imposed on all comedians of like, you can't say that shit, and we're watching you like a fucking communist, like, you know, that's my job to make sure that every line can be misconstrued. They're looking for everything you say to be misconstrued, not even trying to hear your context. Maybe subconsciously I was like, oh, well, you know what? An animal is not going to be offended if I make fun of it. So,
But every animal has their like group of supporters in their corner, like they're a fucking football league, you know, like we're gonna go to bat for them.
yeah, that's true. I mean, listen, there's no way out, but it's actually been like, you know, like successful for me. I'm like, I can't believe the response of it, for
I think
sure.
it's great, man. I'm always telling people to check it out. It's like the hard times of like nature, and it's pretty awesome, you know.
Wow, that is a great, awesome compliment. Thank you.
And I'm glad you don't like pussyfoot it, because I was actually on a Zoom yesterday with like a bunch of friends, like 9 people, Brady Bunch style. And one of them is in a comedy troupe, and they're talking about like doing this like, you know, SNL style pandemic thing where they're showing different reactions. And one guy who was used to be pretty offensive was like kind of afraid to say certain things because he's got some things going for him now. You know, maybe it's not a safe, he has things to lose. I mean, I think the thought police are kind of on hold right now with all this shit.
For
Aside
sure.
from the guy from that band Trapped getting dragged on Twitter, I don't think anybody is really getting messed with as much as they used to right now. But they're
Yeah,
going to
I
come
mean,
back, you know?
it's weird. Like, I feel like there are a lot of people who've been around for who are like thrived during that time just because they have their audience who is buying what they're buying. Like Legion of Skanks, like they're who they are, you know? I mean, like Howard Stern's show has been on through all of this, you know what I mean? Like, and no one would question it because he's who he is. I mean, he's lightened over the years, but it's like there's always an audience for this stuff, but it's like if everybody wants SNL, then like, yeah, like you're playing in their arena, you know? It's like all of a sudden everybody wanted to be the prom queen. So they're only going for this, like, it's weird how like, I feel like you and I are from a generation where like there was something noble about being alternative. Like, not what you were pretending to
Hey,
it.
man, I'm not alternative. Don't label me, man, you know?
Well, yeah, exactly.
But now the kids want to be labeled. They want to be like a fucking acousticore vegan in boy flux who has like tendencies towards fucking, you know, self-sustaining fucking farm to table waitressing, you know, like that's what they want on their resume instead of just being like, dude, I'm Todd, you know, whatever, you know.
Totally. Yeah, I mean, and that's like our human nature to like need to feel in a group. And like, it's weird, like for artists, like there's something in creative people that doesn't want that, like inherently. And it's like when you realize, like, because I mean, I like, you know, before I was doing a lot of stuff, I mean, years ago, I was like involved in improv. And even I feel like it with the stand-up scene, it's like, I can never just like assimilate to a group or even like in a social setting. Like I am kind of to myself, and I am kind of like I would rather be at the party making fun of the party than be among the big social group at the party, you know?
Yeah, I remember the last time I saw you was at that insane gig that Josh Pallad threw at Shirley Chisholm's former fucking campaign headquarters down in Crown Heights.
Jesus Christ, that was...
Dude, it was just you and me just ripping on everybody because it was just so ridiculous. And then, like, he wanted me to perform, and then, like, he took so long. Those guys took, like, 7 hours to set up that camera that I was fucking wasted by the time I was supposed to play. And I never saw the video anyway.
And you never saw the footage. And, you know, I brought it up to him. And
It's
I was
either
like,
awesome or horrible. There's not going to be any in between. It's like, but I love that.
Classic Josh. Classic Josh. And by the way, Josh is one of the members of the Low End Gigolos, my podcast. But yeah, he's like, I mean, that's just an example of like, hey, let's do a thing that I haven't thought out completely. And then
Josh Pallad is the last human being that I shook hands with before the pandemic because I ran into him on the platform at West 4th Street a little bit before this all went down.
Holy shit,
that's man. It. He's the last guy I've touched.
Unbelievable. Well, I think you'll be all right because I don't know. So,
we're both still alive, so.
Yeah, exactly.
I think we had enough antibodies exchanging between us that it stopped it from getting in the door. But what do you think the fucking future of actually doing stand-up is going to be? Because I feel like arenas are done, which is going to knock the arena acts into the fucking clubs, which is going to knock the club acts into the fucking bars.
You're saying it. And I think that's true for all. I think that's true for all artists, right? Like you're probably thinking about that because it's the same for music, right? Like because they're having these things.
Because I don't think the big places are going to reopen. I think it's going to all be like telethon shit or. I mean, it's weird. I'm doing these Thursday live streams every day. And like, normally I would be competing with a couple of other like people who might decide to do that. Now I got like Joseph Arthur's on every Friday and fucking Ryan Adams is back from being canceled and he's on and Jason Isbell. And how you competing with these fucking people? You're not, you know, but
yeah,
still draw people. And at least it keeps it for 24 hours. So people can tune in later sometimes, you know?
You know, that's a great question. I mean, I think I tell the guys in my podcast because like they wrap so much of their identity with like, and like, I don't want to diss anybody, but like you wrap your identity into like, oh, I'm a stand-up. That's what you're like, that's what you want to be like for Kevin's like a younger stand-up. So he's like emboldened by that, like identity, like I'm a stand-up, like wrapped into this thing. That's like
Kevin is also
really like the template of 1985, like something that like, is past its prime. When it's like for me, I'm like I want to like make people laugh and I want to talk about certain things, like so making people laugh is not a stand-up. That's what's underneath, like, and if you are what you are underneath the form of it as it mutates throughout time, you'll be fine. You know what I mean? Like, so
you're transcending the genre, you know?
What?
I said you're like transcending the genre, whereas he's kind of like trying to beat Tom Hanks in Punchline still, maybe.
I think, yeah. I mean, I think that like I threw him under the bus, not just because he's on my podcast. He's a great guy, but no, I mean, it's just like if we don't like lock ourselves into like one thing, it's like genres. It's like when I was 18, when we were in high school, what was the most popular genre was ska. And then 2 years later, it was emo. So like,
well, I think the most popular genre was like fucking Marilyn Manson commercial Hot Topic goth, but ska was and ska also was interesting, I thought, because we had this conversation on Low End Gigolos, how like ska was big in certain neighborhoods and cities and shit, but other ones it was kind of a lower tier. There would always be one ska band in with the punk bands, but I didn't see as many ska shows. I mean, the dude in the full red checkered suit, you didn't see that often, you know, but then it got busier and busier once like, you know, Real Big Fish and all those bands kind of
I know blew, and then it peaked and it became like a flavor of the month, which is, it's like if you have integrity of what you do and you're like honing your craft over a lifetime, then like you're giving who you are like your own personality, which is all like the unique like thumbprint of your artistic, you know, personality. So that could be bigger or more like dynamic than a genre. Like you're like going all in for Marilyn Manson. Well, it's over by 1999, and then like what do you call like the first version of Brooklyn Hipster comes in, you know, and then it's like the next thing, and then Scene, and then some other shit. And so it's like, that stuff is the same. I think that's the stuff is the same as the trends of comedy. Like 10 years ago, we were living in a much more like improv centric comedy.
Oh,
You know what I
definitely.
mean?
I mean, look, Upright Citizens Brigade just fucking closed down. You know, I mean, I
Totally.
think that kind of era is going out. I think people aren't getting together in disgusting theaters anymore. It's more like it is happening online, and you're able to do that, even especially working with Mares, because as you mentioned, she's in Pittsburgh, and I know you guys did do some stage shows out there and whatnot. But I mean, I've even seen she films like at her crib and you film at yours and you just make it look like it's together. You just write a vignette and it's cool, you know?
Totally. Yeah. We've been just doing it like that. And yeah, we'll be continuing to do that weekly. You know, we had just shot like a real pilot with like, and we're finishing, we're actually having it's being, what is it called? Scored. We're having a guitarist
Nice.
score it right now, but it's almost done. But like, that was like a full production, like you know, it cost us money
If you
and
need
stuff
any
like
of our
that.
songs to sync, you know, you can always have one, you know?
Hell yeah, dude. Yeah. And like, you know, I don't know, like, you know, the film industry, same thing. It's like, we could not now put a thing like that together, and nobody could, because it's just too many people involved. So it's going to have to be this like punky way of doing it.
Yeah, and even when things start getting rolling again, the amount of glut and clog that's going to be, and where are these things going to be distributed to, you know, like as well, you know?
Yeah. I mean, you know, I mean, it's interesting. Like, I do think that like one thing that Grading Animals like showed me and is still showing me is that like something that's like really like deep inside of you, and it's like you would think like there's no way that's gonna have any like cachet, like actually resonates like bigger than the things you think that are gonna be
Oh
big. And
yeah,
then
if
it's
you
like,
can build your brand on a niche targeted at a specific thing, that's always the way to go, as opposed to like trying to envelop and bring everybody to the table, because you're going to piss someone else off by who you invited at the other side, you know?
for sure, yeah. Yeah, but I think like now I'm like, oh well, you know, the cross section is that these people wanted to hear, they came to the party for Animals, and they like liked, I guess, my comedic voice. So it's like in that like Venn diagram, it's like that taught me something about how like, oh, so you know, you everybody wants to be like loved for just who they are, but everybody's online trying to fucking catch eyeballs for that.
Yeah,
So it's like, what do you blend in that you actually enjoy? And the same thing with like entertaining people or putting on a show. Like, it's you, like every show is about a thing too. Like, you know, you pick a show that you like, well, it takes place in a certain like either it's sci-fi or it's like something that has a texture that brings people to the table, you know?
totally, man. Fucking, I was gonna ask too, just to back it back up to being out in Lindenhurst. Have you seen any weird shit during quarantine? You know, like, I mean, like here in Queens, I see strange things, like the rise of people smoking cigarettes through their masks, which is pretty funny. It's a lot quieter with no bar fights because there's no bars. But I mean, have you seen anything bizarre? I always like the guy who's driving around in his car with the mask, sucking in all the carbon dioxide. Like,
All the time. That's everywhere, every day. But there's a guy who I've seen him 3 times now, and he's. Let me see if I can. You may know exactly. I'm trying to think. Oh, okay. It's not. It's Wellwood, and fuck, I don't know where the cross street, but it's like before you really get into Lindenhurst. It might be the cross. It might be 109 and Wellwood.
but there's like
There's a
the big
guy.
7-Eleven there and the Dunkin' Donuts and shit.
Yeah, there's a guy who. Yeah, there's a guy who's on one of the corners, almost. And I don't go out that much, but every time I've driven out, multiple days in between, he's dancing, listening to an iPod, dancing very like effeminately. I mean, like, you know, I've never talked to him or anything like that,
Getting his
but like,
exercise. He's probably listening to a soccer game.
I mean, he is singing out loud and just like fucking in his glory. And I'm just like, all right. Like all the times I've lived here, I've never seen that before. Now I've seen it 3 times. I'm like, is he out there every day?
Maybe he is. Maybe he's
Yeah.
not there right now, you know?
Maybe, maybe he's bringing joy to all the world. I mean, it's aggressive. He's aggressively dancing. So that I've seen. I try to like go out to like the most remote places. Like when it was nice, like last weekend, I got up early and drove out to Montauk Point.
Hmm.
And
I think that would not be remote. I feel like all the fucking city people fled to the Hamptons and Montauk and it'd be super crowded.
well, I'd been like so especially like for grading animals, I always do like like a middle part where I'm walking and talking.
Yeah, I saw you on a beach. Is that out there maybe? Or
Yeah, like oh well, I go all over the place and I try to find where like the most, like I have a list of like every county park and everything like that. So I was like, oh, well, I'll just go out here and see what's the deal. And the cops were already like by like 10 o'clock in the morning. They were like, no, too many people on. You can't be here. They were turning people away. So I was like, wow, I did not expect that because I haven't experienced that on other days I've gone out. So I did find like some like little tiny park that like nobody would go to because it's all marshland. But yeah, like I mean, I'm not like trying to like go all throughout this in every supermarket. Like up until a month ago, you had like your typical Long Islander who's like, "This is bullshit." Like I'm not wearing a mask and blah blah blah, and at the counter like talking loudly with his friend or at the register, like. But I think that's everywhere,
oh
and
yeah,
that's right in Brooklyn and Queens everywhere too. So
there's much less of them. I still see a couple of people going raw dog, but in general, most businesses aren't letting you in without it. And it's not like Oklahoma where they're going to knife you if you try to impede them from entering,
yeah,
People are a little bit better. I mean, I've definitely noticed the enforcement changes. The nicer the neighborhood, the less enforcement, obviously, unfortunately. We were in Forest Park, in Forest Hills Kew Gardens, and police and park rangers are going around handing people masks if they don't have one. If you drive around, like the waterfronts are just mobbed always. Like what I call the Vernon Boulevard bike lane, which I call the yellow brick road of gentrification that rides, along Long Island City into Astoria. If you pass by like Socrates Park or Randy Park, where like you have like the Witches of Bushwick doing yoga and like a bunch of other people just like chilling. There's no police. People don't talk to each other. No one gives a shit. You get down by Queensbridge, where Nas might be spitting some bars, and you're gonna fucking see a precinct in there, and it's fucked up, And
yeah.
I mean, that's kind of annoying. I see more people on drugs than ever before too. I think, but you might as well do with a pandemic what you would do normally anyway, right? I mean, you got to get through it, right? So.
Totally. Yeah, I mean, yeah, like it's weird to think that like, I haven't like really seen anybody like or done anything like or like, like I haven't. My girlfriend lives in the city. Like we just talk on the phone. It's just like that's
You haven't
FaceTime.
broke quarantine for like a secret fucking clandestine rendezvous.
Yeah, no, we haven't done that.
Wow. You guys have willpower.
Yo, dude, it's wild. I mean, and like she's in the city proper, and it's like, I find from what she tells me, it's just like really enforced, and it's really like uncomfortably because I feel like the city also, because of the population density and also like we're following the rules and we're like doing everything. So it's just like militarizes like how everyone behaves because socially they don't want to like do the wrong thing.
Yeah, totally. I noticed in Manhattan, I took my bike into Manhattan one day and, went over the 59th Street Bridge, which was also, now that people aren't allowed out, the dude that would be on his phone all fucking day Tindering now has to be outside. And they all have to go to the bridge and the waterfront, So getting through that was rough. And then I noticed the east side, the enforcement's different. The west side, they have like, friggin' riot gear and shit,
Yeah.
like,
yeah.
So it depends on where you are. Yeah, I had adventure too. I have this one speed bike where I have pedal brakes and my chain popped off at the apex of the Williamsburg Bridge about to head downward. So I have no brakes. I can't stop. It's super busy with all these like people on city bikes. There's, people walking in the fucking bike lane on the wrong side. Like I almost took out a Hasidic family. I was like, I'm like, I can't stop. I'm like, finally I was able to get to where I could put my feet down and drag it a little bit, but like it was just too crowded. So I had to obviously take my wheel off and move it back a little bit. You know, I should have set it up, and I didn't think about it. But so that was an adventure. You know.
Oh yeah, dude. I have to get my bike. I have to get. I popped a tire in a park. Yeah, like, and I was like, oh man, this sucks. I was like, you know, I mean, I have like I have that bike, but like I was out like on mountain bikey type spots, so it was really my fault.
That'll hurt your ass, man. Those thin ones on
Yeah.
there. Yeah, I mean, luckily the bike store by me just reopened because I had a flat the other day too, so that was good to take care of. Otherwise, I would have to be walking to the DeKalb stop, which is a fucking hike. You know?
Jesus Christ. I mean, I can't imagine not like. Well, you have a car, right? No.
Yeah,
Yeah, I mean, like that's been like a.
but I drove once since March just to
Oh,
drive.
really? Yeah.
It's been no reason to, you know, and I pay for a parking space, you know, so.
Yeah, no, I'm like that. That's like my thing. It's like if I go out, I'll try to fucking go out somewhere where I, you know, like just almost to explore. Like I've gone to so many weird places and not encountered people, but like I'm like, oh man, I would have never been able to. I would have never thought to or taken the time to come out to like fucking Dwarf Pines County Park in West Hampton or like, you know, or like these weird places that you know, like exploring the Pine Barrens and just doing, you know, weird. Like, I mean, probably like I will get murdered. Like that is the next step of that.
I thought I was gonna get murdered today, man. Fucking, not that I always don't think I'm gonna get murdered, but right, I was about to sit down to set this up to make sure it was all running, make sure the camera's good, and then my wife's like, "Can you go out and get me pasta sauce?" I'm like, "Now, like right now." I'm like, I don't want to end up like fucking Ricky and Boys in the fucking Hood, and then fucking leave you here waiting, you know. But it worked out. Everything was fine, you know. I mean, going into that grocery store, you got to be, especially at like 6 o'clock on a Saturday, you can hit some lines, you know, because they're only letting X amount of people in. But I got lucky, you know. So
yeah, thankfully, like there. I mean, I have not. I don't know. I guess my schedule is like not. I've avoided like line. Well, you know, like there's a Whole Foods in where the hell is it? Fucking Hicksville or something like that. And I don't really go there often, but like.
Oh, the one in Jericho, and
yeah,
that one I wouldn't go there anyway. It's just too busy.
Yeah, in Lindenhurst, like there's not like the supermarket, the King Cullen. It like has like 4 things, like and like you know your staples are like often out. Like that's one thing. I mean, you guys probably
we had no eggs for like 2 weeks. Everybody bought all the chicken cutlets, you know. So fine, I'll get pork chops, whatever. But yeah, that was the thing. There was one point when I went in there, they had tripe and deer brain was all they fucking had. I'm like, I'm not even attempting. I don't want to get like African sleep sickness from like some bad venison, you know, like I'm not even fucking with that, you know? Like,
yeah, no, I've pretty much been, cause like the same thing that there's never, well, you know, like only like maybe 3 weeks ago did stocks start coming back and like, you're like, oh, okay, now they have eggs. Now there's things. But for a long time, I was only eating like fucking egg whites from a can, the fucking chicken sausages, like those, you know, breakfast sausages. I mean, I was really subsistence living.
The premium ones?
Yeah, like
or the flat patty that comes in like the Morningstar box. Those are the worst.
It was terrible. Yeah, so I mean, now I think I'm back to normal.
I mean, it annoys me that I know that like there's one motherfucker around the corner with an extra fridge in their garage now with 700 fucking pieces of filet mignon in it that they're never going to eat. And you know what? I'm willing to bet a lot of people who bought a bunch of shit and hoarded it are now dead. And all that shit's probably going to fucking waste, you know?
Wow. Yeah.
Because the first week this happened, everybody, I'm like, I'm not going. And like you, I have the same kind of mentality where wherever everybody is, I don't want to be there. And, you know, I just made sure I went to a neighborhood I knew wouldn't be busy to go shopping, you know, and everybody else went and mobbed the grocery store and they probably all got infected. And they were like, oh, you know, I wore gloves. I'm like, yeah, but you all went to the same cashier who handled all the same pieces and rang it up and touched the money. And then you're now touching all that stuff in your home and then touching yourself. You've all been cross-contaminated. Like, that's how it works. Like, I mean, look, I never in my life did I ever think that, like, I would go to the bodega and buy a 6-pack and then wipe them down with rags before I drank them. I would just go and pop it and drink it in the street and fucking throw one. Like, I didn't give a shit.
Yeah,
now I'm like, man, I'm kissing that can. Who knows who, you know? there could be some COVID asshole on that. Like, who knows,
Yeah, I mean, it's weird. Like, yeah, I have like a same thing. Like, I have a bottle of alcohol that I just wipe everything with. Have you like I had a couple of people that, older people that I knew that have passed because of this. Have you?
Luckily, no one I know has, I believe, passed away from this. People had other problems and other things going on that caught up to them. But I mean, I had an uncle, like my aunt just passed away at the beginning of this, and he just got it right after that, after dealing with the whole week, because that was terrible. And I had a friend who's a guy who's like 2 years younger than us, who was on the ventilator for a couple of days, and he was luckily he recovered, and he's actually live streaming today. He's rocking.
Wow, man. Yeah, like
right. I know a couple of people who were sick, but nothing like that really whomped them in any kind of way. So it's been lucky. I mean, I know people everywhere, so it's been good. I mean, it is only 1 to 2% of the population that's getting hit really hard. I mean, but imagine that amount of population vanishing is the premise of the show, The Leftovers, right? So
yeah,
like, it's a lot of people, like.
Yeah.
So I mean, at the beginning of this, it was just sirens 24 hours a day through April, and just no sleep. And you'd go out for a walk. And the one solace that I now had that I never had was that there are bars now giving you to-go beers through windows.
Wow.
So now drinking in the street is cool. So like we've entered a new, like, it's like European or Vegas era, or a French Quarter, which is, we can't go back from this now. Now you've given it to us. You can't take it back,
Yeah,
so we'll see. But yeah, I don't think anybody's gonna be going to the Tombs for an open container anymore. But I would just see on my walk 3 ambulances, and people were dying in their houses and they couldn't pick them up for 2 or 3 days. I mean, it was wild, like, it's unbelievable. I mean, we've always knew that something like this could happen, but to actually envision yourself living through it, and how, for the people who are healthy, how easily it becomes normal is crazy, because you got to adapt.
That's an interesting thing to bring up, because a lot of people, the normalcy has like a very quick shelf life for certain people, where it's like, like, for instance, like when like even with people who like are in relationships very quickly, it's like they, like, after 2 weeks involved with a person, that they're already like feel like it's normal, and it's like boring or something like that.
Yeah, that's a common
like
thing.
People are like have already like settled into like what this is, and have like taken it all, like the trappings in, that's like that their new life. Like I feel like for me, I'm still like, I don't have to go to work tomorrow. Like it's still like the echo of, like, I mean, I've been trying to like put not a lot of pressure, but like really like grasp all of this momentum or whatever I have, because like I'm afraid it's all going to end. Like what if I never have this great period again? You know what I mean? Like,
unless you're super successful and then that creates that amount of free time, you're probably not. So yeah, I mean, you're right to definitely try to utilize it to the best of your ability. And I think that's what everyone's trying to do. I mean, my band was lucky in the fact that we recorded in February before the shit hit the fan, and we were able to complete some of a record. So we have at least something to put out, and no one else on the label did, which puts us in a good position, because it's us or nothing. So you got to put it out, right? But we're trying to figure out how you do it, because you can't tour right now. Even basement shows and outlaw shit's not really a viable option yet. I think it's going to be. I think by Memorial Day, you're not going to be keeping people in anymore. They're just going to be, they've had it, I'll just not go where those people go.
I mean, yeah, like even just like it snowed today.
That's cosmic. I think that the Earth is off its axis, and we're just careening into space, and we're on Krypton, and that's it, I
mean, dude, like, and I probably mentioned this on every podcast I've done recently, but like, so like I really enjoyed this book that I just finished reading called The Overstory. Okay. And it's like trees are a central theme in it, but it's sort of like almost like ripped from the headlines, like the ecology movement over the last 40 years. But like what the book's about is that like humans use the earth like every resource is only for them. So it's like one creature using everything else just for their own like just like turned up to 11, just using it up. And it's
Yeah.
like
The consumption is crazy. The earth is basically just our fuck doll. We're terrible to it, you know?
exactly. And like in the book, it's like there's no way out of it. Like you're just driving off a cliff and there's nothing you can do about it because it's like inherent in like humans are just like ants or termites or something that they just like only know to like build a crazy nest and like do this behavior that they've been doing forever. And it's like, then as I finish the book, I'm like, wow, a worldwide pandemic where everybody is staying inside because they fucked up. Even the dumb motherfuckers who run this place, the stupidest, like most selfish scumbags who truly don't give a shit about anything, even they're like, well, you know what? We better stay in. I mean, that is unbelievable.
Yeah, I mean, well, you see, there's not even, I wish there was a greater consensus about it because, you know, states are reopening and obviously the redder, the dumber ones, you know, unfortunately tend to be, you know, are the ones that are going first. And they're going to see spikes. It's not going to be like here. We have a density that no one else has, but they're going to see some shit, you know. I feel like this whole thing was a warning shot across the bow and we saw, yeah, you know, the water and the air is getting a little bit better, you know.
Yeah.
And you could blame the Chinese all you want, but this could have easily just happened in Brazil or fucking Australia too. There's plenty of deforestation and overusing of resources and people in contact with bats and pangolins and other shit that's spreading other diseases. And dude, imagine if this had been Ebola. You know, that's all I'm saying. You know,
sure. And like, you know, like the job I had before this, like, you know, that I got furloughed from is like I'm a photographer, media guy, and like they send me like. They used to send me, like, I was in Vancouver up like the 26th and 27th of February. Like I came back, like I like came up back on the plane with like a shirt. I just had a shirt over my face. And like in Vancouver at that time, nobody had masks. So like, but the whole like just sending people everywhere, all over the place, like indiscriminately for like anything, like truly the work that I did, the only reason they sent me across to Germany and these places was because that they knew me. They could have just as easily got on a Zoom call and be like, all right, here's what I want you to do. Like plug in the thing, set up the cap. It's like, there's no reason to do that. And this globe hopping is how this shit spreads, you know?
Oh, completely. We're so connected and we, you know, there is something to be said to send a professional someplace to get the job done right. I mean, they trust you to do that, and that's why you were sent. But I understand that. But yeah, I mean, yeah, like I traveled quite a bit. I was in Seattle, and then I was in Italy, so I was just missing the fun.
Yeah,
I mean, I was in Venice right before the flood, literally like 4 days. I feel like I don't know. People probably think I'm in the fucking CIA because every time I go somewhere, like the place falls apart a week later. I don't know, you know. But I shouldn't eat pizza. Sorry.
It's all good.
I'm so fucking hungover too. Like I said, I was on that Brady Bunch Zoom call last night, and we were all reading haikus about the quarantine, and just had too many drinks. You know, I mean, can't go out to the bar anymore and rip it. So you're sitting here, and you drink faster. You know, like I feel like you put it in a glass, it goes down faster. You know. All right, here we go. But yeah, I mean, yeah, the age of sending people everywhere indiscriminately is definitely, I think, coming to an end. I mean, I think, but then again, maybe there's going to be the flip to that too, because the airlines are going to be giving incentives. Even United is starting to treat people like fucking human beings because they know they have to get people out there. I mean, they're still the worst, and I won't fly them. Them and Frontier can suck it. But yeah, it's all I spent 3 days on an Amtrak that, you know, I don't think anybody would ever do that again. Like, you know, just because I wanted to do that. I wanted to experience the romance of rails, and it's disgusting and I'll never do it again. But I was 3 days without a shower, you know, with psychopaths and maniacs and people who are being sent out of New York because they don't want them there.
Damn,
you know, I mean, it was a party and I had a fucking blast and I met some really incredible people. Like my man Sterling out in Bakersfield with "fuck yo feelings" tattooed on his neck. You know, people you couldn't meet otherwise. It was great, but being packed into a rolling metal sausage for 3 days with everyone coughing and breathing on each other. You can't open those windows. I don't think that's going to happen anymore, you know?
Totally. I will see. I mean, you know, it's like the flip side is that like that is like that's also like it's in human nature. It's like, you know, we, no matter what, like we're like every new generation is like potential energy, like ready to like blast out in every way that you can't be contained. It's just
Yeah.
that's like the because all any life wants to do is spread in every direction, you know? Like so we're just it's really like going to be in one ear and out the other. And you know, it's like they don't build a stop sign until there's a car crash, and this is like maybe the car crash that, you know, was that nobody died in, or that people died in, but it wasn't like, you know, 100 years ago.
Do you think we'll see like a redesign in travel? Like if they do eventually complete some kind of hyperloop, will there just be, will everyone have individual pods, or will be people space? Will they redesign planes so that they're not meant to cram as many people in as possible anymore, so that maybe you can put your fucking seat back an inch, you know?
I mean, right? Like innovation, or will the, I mean, something I've been thinking about or like hoping is that, you know, in our lifetimes, like the value of our time, like we've given away like like time is the most, that's the resource truly that has the most value. Like
Yeah.
you and I could not do the things that we wanted to do, get, you know, write a masterpiece of a song or create something without the time to do it. And the way that like living encroaches on that time in every way, and especially like right before this happened, where it's like you do not have a second to yourself, and that seconds is like priced away. I'm like, it would be great if the world is realized like, no, this time is valuable to me, and I'm not going to just give it away.
Yeah, that would be, and they're not, and the value of that time will increase because people are getting paid a pittance to, you know, the essential workers, the expendable workers, let's be fucking honest, you know, that are doing a slave wage at the grocery store need to get a couple more dollars, you know, like,
Yeah.
and
Right.
the people being mad at people getting $600 over their $400 paycheck needs to be mad at those employers for not paying them $600 and not your 3 pennies going to support those people, you know?
Yeah.
And yeah, with inventiveness comes from necessity, but I feel like we're also at a generation that ignores necessity, you know, and we just pretend that there's no problems. And also Americans are just so, look, I love America. I've been to a lot of places. I've seen a lot of things. As a culture, we are exceptionally spoiled, and we do not recognize we have the free time to create all this shit because the rest of the world is suffering for our benefit as we consume and consume. Like everyone else is just shoveling the diamonds into us, and we're just taking them all, you know? And because we don't have to do this laborious shit, we have the time to pursue the arts, oh, you know, and it creates more of it, which is good. I think maybe there's a lot more quantity than quality in the modern world, unfortunately, because people are not putting in their 10,000 hours anymore because you don't need to, I guess, you know, especially with instant, you can publish anything and maybe it'll catch fire, you know?
Yeah, I mean, it's weird, right? Like there's just so many, I mean, it's funny, like there is great innovations. Like I always think about, like maybe 7 years ago, I picked up mandolin just because I wanted to play it, like, I had to play it for this show that I was doing, and then I was like, I love it, it's interesting, and I'm like, who the fuck plays mandolin anymore? I'm like, who the fuck plays mandolin? And then like you do a simple Google search, and you realize that like at any moment of time, the greatest mandolin players are out there, and they're still it's like anything that, as much as like we're like fucking like vapid shallow society, also in every genre the most excellent thing is happening.
Oh,
like
totally.
like Adam Miller, he's a guy our age, he is like a Renaissance like classicist painter, like incredible. I mean, he's selling, and there's a whole movement of that. You'd never think it was there. Like all the cool
Like
shit.
he's doing actual Renaissance style.
Bro. Yeah, like I mean, it's just masterpieces, and he's, you know, and it's a genre of like young people who are doing that shit. It's like everything is hidden in plain sight, and the only volume is turned up on like, you know, the equivalent of like Z100 is all we get blasted with, but like filter that out and other cool shit is happening at the same time.
Well, it's always been the case. Like you got to go
Yeah.
looking for things. I mean, especially now too, without there being an MTV like or something that's like a major aggregator that then beams shit into your face culturally. I go down all these crazy like YouTube and Spotify rabbit holes looking for bands that I missed, and they could be right now. They could be out there, or they could have been in the '60s, '70s, '80s that I just never heard of. And you know, the technology gives you the ability that this entire library of all human existence between across 4 or 5 mediums, between if you throw Bandcamp in there and SoundCloud, you have access to pretty much all recorded history. And it's interesting the shit that you find. And then I just keep liking things, and I'm like, and there's so many, everyone's like, there's no good new music. No, there is. Every Friday on Spotify, there's 1,000 awesome new songs, but you're only going to find 6 of them, unfortunately, because it's too fucking much. It's like a landslide, you know?
Yeah. I mean, it is sad that like, well, no, it is really actually like, I was going to say that like we had mentioned earlier that like you and I came up in a time when like, I mean, especially like the specter of Kurt Cobain and the idea that like, it was so cool that like they oh, what do you like to do? Go into record stores and find like some off the beaten path record. Like that was like a symbol of like what was cool to find something. And he's like a mainstream version of it, but like we're seekers. We're of a seeker generation that was like, you're handing me one thing, we want to push it away and find our own version of it. And
or who did it first and maybe did it better. Yeah. You know, like,
right. But you know, and the other thing about what you were saying about the, finding all this work that's online is it's funny how with every new like digital version of content, like we lose the last digital, because I'm thinking of there's a lot of great DVDs that I have that like never got put on a streaming service.
Oh yeah, you know? True.
And like the tapes that don't make it to the CDs that don't make it to, you know, and it's just like we lose like a good portion of everything. I mean, even people who don't even consider reading books nowadays, you know what I mean? It's like, there's so many good things that happen. Like that book, The Overstory, like the book, The Overstory made me want to grade trees, which I did a couple of those episodes.
Yeah, I saw that.
And like, that was like purely inspired from reading that book. But I'm like, I wanted to do like, I want to do some content that like more explores, like maybe almost do like something that explored that book. And I'm thinking like, even though that book won the Pulitzer 2 years ago, like nobody's going to know what I'm talking about. It's going to 100% go over everybody's head. I mean, I may still do it, but like, this is what we're having. Like nobody's checking out these things.
It's just interesting. You know, again, the way influence works, like Fiona Apple just dropped this record that everyone's gushing over that I think just sounds like a bunch of inmates banging on fucking sticks, but it's called Fetch the Bolt Cutters, which is a throwaway line from some Gillian Anderson movie, you know, like, and just she saw that in that movie and was like, oh, that's a cool title. And then went on some tangent with it and created something that's so unrelated, but just used those same words in that order, you know?
Right.
And you can just, you know, all most great songs stole a line. I mean, I used to do this game called Stacks, where if I was, you know, stagnant, had like a good. Let me start over. Sometimes when I write songs, like the lyrics come first, but sometimes I just got a riff or I have a whole song together, but I have no words and it's not inspiring me to tell a story. Like sometimes when I'm standing there playing, it'll emotionally hit me and I'll see a story in my mind or a memory and that'll guide me. But when that ain't happening, I would take, and I learned this from better songwriters than me, but take a reference book and a novel, you know, some fiction, something, you know, like, so The Road by Cormac McCarthy and a American history textbook, you know, and you both open them to a random page and put them down. It's random. Flip one over and you find a line. So I took one from The Road. There were nights in the dark that I did not envy the dead. Perfect, you know, and then you find the other book and you find the next line, you know, in the other book. And you can change it to make it make sense. It's not like you have to follow the rules. It's just to get your brain going. And it'll help. And then from there, it became a story about addiction. You know, it has nothing to do with the fucking, the road or people getting eaten. You know, like it was just totally somewhere else, you know?
Absolutely. Actually, that you know, when I was involved in improv, like one of the things that was magic to me was how the best improvisers, like the guys who are like Centralia, like those guys are like legends in New York City, but like where like they would find something in the beginning and then build out like a whole like three different worlds that like all of a sudden like naturally intersected. And like it always was like magic to me. I was like, that is such like an openness to like two separate things and be open enough to let them happen like in real time and find the connections. And like from doing the podcast with the guys, and especially since I come out of that, like I've seen it happen. Like I've seen it happen in my own life where it's like a couple things get dropped early on, and then the middle, like Josh brings a couple things, and then like by minute 45, I'm able to snake through and like naturally get to all of them and like use the whole, and it's like, yeah, like that game. It's like being open enough to let like the muses talk to you or something.
Yeah, I mean, what I really enjoyed though, not to suck your dick too much or shit on anybody else, but I really liked going on Low End Gigolos. I think better than, and I've done a shit ton of podcasts. I thought that was the most fun because it was so non sequitur and out there, where it's about nothing but everything but nothing, and it's hysterical, and it's just, I could see how that could be inaccessible to certain people, you know, but it's so fucking funny that way, where it's just bullshit and riffing and nonsense, and that like. That I think I haven't encountered any other podcast that follows any kind of format or formula like that, where it's just true, just ridiculous riffing and it's just being fun, you know, like
Dude,
fucking around,
so
you know?
That's awesome, dude. I'm so glad. You know, if your Wednesdays are free, you can come and join us on the Zoom Zoom again. And when we come back to real life, you definitely come on again. We loved having you, dude. And yeah, man, thank you. That's great. They're gonna love to hear that.
I got to actually get on the Patreon and listen to the other half of that one because
dude,
that shit got dark.
That was actually an extraordinarily hilarious episode. Yes.
For people out there, you know, I did this podcast with them and, you know, whatever, we finished taping it and then we were just drinking and smoking and shit. And then we just put it back on when we were fucked and it was just really loose. You know, we weren't pulling punches or holding back names anymore. It was really entertaining, you know?
That's awesome. Yeah, I know. I remember. Yeah, we hit on something. I mean, it's like when you're explaining a dream to somebody, even if I remembered what it was, but like I remember like we killed everybody in that moment. Like everybody was like our faces hurt so much from like whatever the fuck we were talking about. I know it is great. Like it is just to create chaos and to have fun, and they're great. They're great guys to do it with. I love them. And I'm very mean on the podcast. Like,
of course. That's your character, you know, like
vicious.
Yeah.
But it does come from love. I find that like we're kind of like the Three Stooges, or when I talk about the podcast with people, because my friend interviewed me for his other show, and like I was like, you know, with Marianne, when I do Mares and Caps, like I don't play dominant. Like she's dominant. Like that's just the way we play.
Yeah.
And it's natural because she is bossy and like it's just what it is. But with them, like it's like a boxing match. And I don't know, I give them a lot of credit for letting me go so fucking insane. Cause like truly, like I'm not like like in my life, like I'm definitely like closer to Woody Allen than like an aggressive person. You know what I mean? Like, so it's just like funny that like I get to embody this fucking cruel bastard.
Well, you're certainly a much less rapey Woody Allen, you know, but if you put out a book, it wouldn't sink that publisher's stock right now.
Damn.
But yeah, Max, I'm gonna wrap it because I like to keep these, you know, short and tight, man. But it was awesome talking to you, and to the people out there, please listen to Low End Gigolos. It's awesome. Grading Animals. They're really short and hysterical. Mares and Caps are going to make you laugh, and go on fucking Prime. You're fucking a member because you have everything shipped to you anyway. So watch fucking Killing It. And if there's anything else that you need people to know about, let them know, you know?
Oh, that was perfect. Thank you so much, Brian. This is fantastic.
You're perfect
to be on the show.
Hey man, it's been a blast. And hopefully I'll see you in reality soon, man.
For sure.
All right. Adios, brother. Peace.
Okay.